This is Klara. Yeah, so Clara's, I always call her Klara, but I think it's supposed to be Klara. Is that right?
But just Clara, Mister.
Clara, it's just Clara. So, yeah, she's a part of 12C. 12C has been a tough class this year, and there's multiple cliques that are causing trouble, from the group in the back of Studious Girls to Zaya, Nasa, and Clara, and Jenny in the front. I forgot if it was Jenna or Jenny who was one of the troublemakers in the front. But this is a thesis that I've kind of been waiting all year to see how it comes together. You know, who would have thought that we would have a thesis about the multiverse? And so I've been sort of really curious to watch her progress. And in fact, I think she would tell you that after she turned in some of the pieces, I would be like, I don't know what I think. I need to see the next piece to see what I think about this. But she's done a great job putting it together. Here's her acknowledgement. She said, I would like to thank first and foremost Jesus and God, who have accompanied me through the whole year. Without them, my thesis won't happen. Thank you, Mr. JC and Mr. Braun, for being my panelists. God bless. I would also like to thank Mr. Wade, my bro, who has helped me with my thesis since the beginning. Stay healthy, mister. I would also like to thank my advisor, Mr. Hans, my other bro, who has also helped me with my thesis. Thanks also to the teachers, Mr. Zorn, for being my shadow advisor, especially for my speech. Special thanks to my family, who's been witnessing and supporting me in my progress. Special thanks also to my friends who have shown concern for me. And lastly, a very big thank you. Thank you to Professor Radiman, who has guided me through the thesis from all aspects. Clara's title is In the Beginning, God Created the Heavens and the Earth, and many more. Why the multiverse is aligned with Christianity. Give me a second to start the timer. All right, you can start whenever you're ready.
I don't like peace, so I'm going to start an argument with you. I think Miles Morales is the best Spider-Man. Don't agree? Fight me. He's so relatable, I feel like he can survive even in the multiverse. The multiverse. You know, what if I'm just another extrovert in another universe, just hanging out with people every day? I mean, that's a nightmare, but that's what I think after watching the Spider-Man movie. But another thought comes up, which makes me have at least something to write for a thesis. Is the multiverse still aligned with Christianity? Are they going to pull this card out against us? Right? They say life is full of surprises. Now, before you think it will get all scientific, no, it won't. Don't panic. So, let's start, shall we? Now, although the idea of the multiverse seems modern, it has actually dated way back to pre-Socratic philosophers with complicated names. And then, throughout the years, it gained popularity with new theories and discoveries arising. And then, it became popular, and by now, scientists are not the only ones who use it, but also the film industry. Without us realizing, many of us here have been exposed to the multiverse idea. There has been about 14 movies and TV shows using this concept. Let's see the statistics. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness reaches about 11.5 million views. Spider-Man No Way Home reaches about 355 million views globally within 24 hours. The show Rick and Morty reaches about 10 billion views globally. The question is, what kind of perspective do they have after watching these movies? A godless multiverse or a God-driven multiverse? Are they going to use it against us, Christians? What, when, who, where, how? Now I'm here to bring peace, hopefully. The multiverse is still aligned with Christianity because if one already complex universe still needs an intelligent being, then how come something way much more complex, which is the multiverse, does not need an intelligent being? And by the end, we'll find out that the one and only option left for the intelligent being will be God. Now, before I go to my arguments, there are some terms that I would like to clarify. The term bubble universe will be used when talking about the smaller individual universe. In the multiverse, the term multiverse will be talking about the whole group of bubble universes. And the term universe in my first argument will stay as the single universe without the assumption of the multiverse. And even though I use the term Christianity in my thesis, I'll be leaning more towards the existence of God. So, the multiverse is the belief that there are other infinite bubble universes out there beyond this observable one. And it actually has 4 levels, but I'll focus on the level 2 multiverse, which states that the fundamental law of physics remains the same throughout the whole multiverse. This means each bubble universe can have their own different physical properties, initial conditions, and dimensions. You can imagine it like 2 same laptops, but with different settings and themes. So, to make it simpler, let's forget first about the multiverse. Let's focus on this universe we're living in right now. This universe needs an intelligent being. Now let's go way back to the origin of the universe, where it's created. Is it? We'll see the column cosmological argument, and it's gonna feel like Mr. JC's class all over again, but that's okay. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, therefore it has a cause. And just like any other objects of creation, it's created with a specific purpose. But how are we certain that the universe has a beginning? First, the expansion of the universe proven to be true by seeing the distance between 2 galaxies getting further apart from each other. It's like blowing a balloon. You draw 2 dots in the balloon, and when you blow it, you'll notice how the 2 dots will get further away from each other. We have a beginning before we blow the balloon, and the balloon expands because of a cause, which is us blowing it. Second, the origin of the universe can't always be eternal, because by now it would have died. Or, the cooler way to say it, it reached maximum entropy. And entropy is the measure of disorder. It's the same like walking past by an abandoned building. Other than thinking, is it haunted or not? You also think, the building must have been here for a very long time. But if you see a new one, the building must have been here for a very short time. Indomie. Very good, very delicious. We wish we can eat it every day, but we can't, or else we'll go to the hospital. The MSG, the flavorful powder, the chili. We can enjoy this illegal food thanks to the designer of Indomie who can mix the flavors just right. Now, our minds are triggered into thinking of an intelligent being every time we see a specific complex design. Now look at the universe. Nebula, black hole, galaxies, stars. If you can believe even Indomie has a designer, how come you can't believe to something way much more complex, which is the universe? There have even been many things that's still not discovered and science can't answer. And that's just one universe. Now let's bring the multiverse back into the picture. And by definition itself, it sounded more complex. And it is. So if one already complex universe still needs an intelligent being, then how come something way much more complex, which is the multiverse, still not need an intelligent being also? Now, just like before, let's go way back to the origin of the multiverse, where it's created. Is it? Yes, according to the Kalam cosmological argument. And just like any other objects of creation, it's created with a specific purpose. But how are we certain that the multiverse has a beginning? Imagine, before all this, it's like water. We heat the water up with a flame, in this case, the very quick inflation in a small period amount of time during the Big Bang. And it starts to boil. Bubbles appear, but they don't pop. And each of this bubble become a bubble universe. But until now, no one knows what causes this rapid inflation. We have a beginning, before we boil the water, and bubbles appear because of a cause, which is us heating it up. Second, the origin of the multiverse can't always be eternal because by now, or even earlier, it would have died, especially with the accumulation of the entropy from each of the bubble universe. Next, the multiverse must have a designer. Previously, we've talked about how our minds are triggered into thinking of an intelligent being every time we see a specific complex design. Now look at the multiverse, with each bubble universe having their own special characteristics. Let's also take a look from the Spider-Man movie across the Spider-Man verse. Now in the movie, each bubble universe have their own special characteristics. There's the bubble universe like the Lego, comic, real life, and other different animation styles. And just by watching that, you'll feel amazed towards the animators. It's crazy how they're willingly to go that far with the different animation styles. And we should feel the same about it too for the real multiverse case. The fact that each bubble universe have their own special characteristics should make us also think that the designer is crazy, in a good way, to willingly go that far. What if they have the same or similar characteristics? Let's say I display 3 Air Force shoes in front of you. What's the brand that comes to mind? Nike. Nike must be the one who designed it. You can see it from the similar characteristics of the shoe, especially when they all have the same logo Nike. So similarly, if each bubble universe are similar, then there's this pattern that we can notice to show that each of them have the same logo, which means that they have the same designer. It's as if the purpose of the multiverse is to manifest a deep aesthetic and rational order. With a precise design, the multiverse has become a huge theater for the spiritual and moral growth of the finite minds. And the intelligent being will be God. But you can't prove him with science. Well, if you noticed from before, my argument is leaning more towards the philosophical side. And that's done on purpose because on the basis itself, science has limits. I mean, sure, we can discover many things in science, but something massive doesn't mean it doesn't have a limit. It's like the case of heliocentrism and geocentrism. Due to the limit in the 16th century, man used to think that Earth is in the center of the universe. But that's proven to be false, as Sun is the center instead. But this isn't a matter of a limitation of a technology. Science can't make moral judgments. It only informs us, but we're the ones who must make the final decision. Science can't make aesthetic judgments. Yes, it can tell us how our eyes perceive color or what's the frequency of G sharp, but it doesn't tell us if Mozart is bad or the Starry Night is beautiful. It depends on each of our own individual tastes. Science can't prove that you ate ramen yesterday or watch When Life Gives You Tangerine while crying last night because it's impossible for you to do it repeatedly in a controlled environment. Science can't draw conclusions about supernatural explanations because it's a matter of faith and spirituality. This is where theology comes in. It's meant for science to have limits because it's the measurable and materialistic aspect, while theology addresses existential and spiritual questions. What's the origin of the law of physics? Why does the universe exist? Science explains how, theology explains why. They're like the coin of the multiverse. They're different, yet inseparable. They must walk side by side together to provide a holistic understanding of reality. Now, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition, God is the being perfect in power, wisdom, and goodness, who is worshipped as creator and ruler of the universe, the incorporeal divine principle ruling over all as an eternal spirit, a being or object that's worshipped as having more than natural attributes and power. From all these definitions, we can see that one of God's certain attribute is supernatural. So it's normal that we can't use science to deny or affirm his existence, because science is the study of the material part of the world, and God isn't a part of the material world. One of our limited ways to prove his existence is by involving faith or philosophical argument to show that he's the intelligent mind all along as the ultimate origin of everything, not only to explain physical phenomena. So, regardless of the time of discovery, God will stay as the ultimate origin of the multiverse. When I first talk about my thesis, many people ask me, but the Bible don't say anything about it, right? And honestly, you're right. The Bible doesn't talk about it or even give hints about it. But we seem to forget that the Bible has context. And this can lead to misunderstanding, or the sad way to say it, biblically illiterate, which unfortunately has spread to both Christians and non-Christians. This is why we need the inductive Bible study. It consists of 3 steps. First, observation, which answers the question, what does the Bible say? Interpretation, what did the passage mean in its original context? Application, how does this passage relate to my life? Now let's use the verse everyone knows. Genesis 1 verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. First, observation. Genesis means origin from the Greek word, so it's an essential introduction to the rest of the Bible, showing the origin of humans, universe, everything. Second, interpretation. The audience at that time is the Israelites Moses lead, who starts to get influenced by the pagans. Genesis serves that, hey, God is the origin of everything. Third, application. This basically means that God is the origin of everything, including concepts unknown to the authors of the Bible, which includes the multiverse. But how do we know if it's God and not another thing, right? Now I've provided some alternative, and let's see which one makes the most sense. First, it's just a coincidence. Since there are many bubble universes out there, then aren't we just coincidentally living in the right one? Many forget that the basics of life itself is unique and need an explanation beyond chance. Had life not been unique, then you wouldn't be surprised seeing your bottle suddenly come to life and say, hi. In order for the bubble universe to be habitable, the values of the physical properties need to be just right that one property change will alternate the whole bubble universe. It's like expecting the tornado to build a working car from the junkyard. If you can believe randomness creates life, then on what basis does this life exist, and what is its purpose? Next, the multiverse is created out of nothing. You don't even need philosophical or scientific arguments that are complicated to show that this statement does not make sense. Just use basic common sense and logic. If something can be created out of nothing, it goes against our metaphysical intuition. Let's say a friend comes up to you and be like, I'll give you 1 billion rupiah. From where, you ask? And he points at nothing. I bet we all will think either he's crazy or he must be joking. Even if the money appear, you'll think it's black magic, which is supernatural, or it's a magic trick, which needs to be done by someone. Now, for the third and last alternative, let's use a criteria to see who's the final winner. The creator of the multiverse needs to be a necessary being. By necessary, it means that it exists not because of anything else, does not possess ordinary properties, and should be uniquely different from contingent beings. Contingent beings could exist or not exist, and it depends on external conditions. So, once again, God or the law of physics. Now, previously we've talked about the limits of the law of physics. So we can consider it as a contingent being because it possesses ordinary properties, which makes it not uniquely different from any other contingent beings. It depends on external conditions. The basics of the law of physics itself is to describe how nature behaves, not create. You can think of it like a helping tool that helps us visualize what's happening in our surroundings. For example, gravity is invisible, but through the law of physics, we can see what's happening. It's like the governmental law. The ideal one, of course, it helps us visualize what justice is by telling us what's legal or illegal. Well, what about God? Even from the definition of the dictionary itself, he's a being perfect in power, wisdom, and goodness as the creator and ruler of the universe. This means he does not possess ordinary properties, and with these extraordinary properties, he must have been uniquely different from contingent being. As the creator and ruler of the universe, he exists not because of anything else. The final winner has been decided. God must be the ultimate origin and the necessary being behind the multiverse. Yet people want us to be open to new alternatives, but every time it comes to the God alternative, they reject and target it the most. Isn't it weird? I mean, it's weird unless it's a truth that everyone's trying to avoid. So that concludes multiverse and Christianity in a nutshell. The multiverse can still be aligned with Christianity because if one already complex universe still needs an intelligent being, then so does something way much more complex, which is the multiverse. And by now, we know that the one and only option left for the intelligent being will be God, because science itself is limited. So, next time somebody, or maybe one of your friends, pull that card out against us, at least we know what card to pull out to. But are you brave enough to pull that card out or accept their card? Play it right. With great power comes great responsibility. Oh, and don't forget to choose Miles Morales as the best Spider-Man. Thank you. Not paid.
Thank you, Clara. I don't know about Miles Morales or who are those people, but good job. Our panelists today are Mr. Brahm and Mr. JC. I will let Mr. Brahm go first.
Check. Hello, good afternoon, Clara.
Hi, Mister.
Okay, so first of all, it's really interesting. I really enjoy reading the thesis and also listening to you. It seems like you really prepared well. So thank you for bringing this idea, bringing this concept to your thesis defense. Yeah, I really hope that our discussion, our conversation can also be fruitful today. Yeah. Okay. So here's my first question, or perhaps I need to confirm one thing. Okay. So do you focus your thesis on proving the existence of multiverse according to Christianity, or proving Christianity God as the intelligent being behind the existence of universe, or perhaps multiverse?
Thank you for the question. So I'm focusing on proving that if the multiverse were to exist, God will be the intelligent being behind it. But I'm not proving the multiverse exists or not with Christianity, but I'm leaning more towards the second option that you say before.
Okay, thank you. So that's what I thought also, because as I read the whole thesis, I get the sense that you try to explain that if such universe have the intelligent being, and you would argue that for sure the multiverse, that it is much more complex, have also intelligent being. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So let's jump into the next question. You said that science have limit, right? Because yeah, it deals with materialistic world, measure the materialistic aspects, while theology addresses spiritual and existential question, right? Now, since the theory of multiverse still cannot be proven scientifically, does it mean that we need to use the theological approach to believe in its existence?
So, if I have to clarify the question, are you asking that we need to use theology to prove that the multiverse exists?
Right.
Right. So, here's the thing. This is why science and theology is very connected and must be integrated. Because again, theology addresses the existential and spiritual question. And if it's in that case, then unfortunately, we can't use it to prove that the multiverse exists. And this multiverse assumption comes from physicians and other scientists, even philosophists. So unfortunately, we cannot use theology to prove that the multiverse exists because even the science community is also still debating on its existence. But what we can prove with theology is even with the assumption that the multiverse exists, then God will be the ultimate origin behind it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, my next question. Okay, can you explain again your inductive Bible study? Explain again your research about how Christianity or how the Bible support or align with the idea of the multiverse. And you mentioned about observation, interpretation, and application. Can you elaborate a little bit more, just to strengthen your idea that, hey, even if the Bible does not literally support the idea of multiverse, but here's what I found from my inductive Bible study.
Right.
Thank you.
So, according to from 10th grade to 11th grade, we were taught by you, Mr. and Mr. Zorin, that we should not take the Bible too literal nor too figurative because we can understand the dangers of both, right? So this is why we need the inductive Bible study. So first, observation. What does the Bible say? The Bible say, in this case, Genesis 1 verse 1 says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And actually, heavens and the earth is a synecdoche, or a merism to everything. So that's what the Bible say. And then we need to go to the next step, interpretation. What did the passage mean in its original context? Now, in its original context, Genesis is written to remind the Israelites who starts to worship the idols that God is the origin of everything. So that's the meaning in its original context. Now we know what's the meaning in its original context, and this is where we can apply to our daily life. And in my daily life, there's thesis. So I apply it to my thesis, which is, since Genesis serves as a reminder that God is the origin of everything, then that means everything includes everything, including the multiverse, even though the authors of the Bible at the time didn't know such theory can exist.
Okay, but does that mean that this verse, Genesis 1, verse 1, can become a strong evidence of the existence of the multiverse?
I would say no, because once again, we never know what's truly out there, right? So, unfortunately, no, we cannot.
Okay, thank you. So this will perhaps become my final statement. Yeah, also talking about the inductive Bible study. You know, as the world and the technology and yeah, the science keep evolving, yeah, I'm pretty sure that, years from now, there will be another questions about this. There will be another people try to open more possibility. Now, perhaps about multiverse, but then, years from now, because the world is keep evolving, right? Science keep evolving. So it is very important for all of us, especially Christians, to sometimes go back into what something that never evolved, which is the Bible itself. Yeah. So regardless of all of the questions that might arise in the future, we can always go back into the Bible, because the Bible never changed and it's always relevant from yesterday, today, and forever. Okay, good job, Klara. Thank you.
Mr.
Okay, Mr. JC.
Check. Hello, Klara.
Hi, Mr.
Klara means clear, right? That's in
Yeah.
Latin. Klara, for the sake of clarity, as your name is clear, I need to ask some questions here to examine your propositions. Yeah. First of all, I would like to commend you because perhaps among all of the, I might be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, among all of the topics that are presented since 2 weeks ago, that have been presented since 2 weeks ago, this is probably the topic that is the most theoretical, philosophical. It could be a little bit theological also, and thereby this is the most leisurely. Like you present something not for the sake of immediate urgency, immediate needs, but this is for the sake of you using your leisure as a free, I'm not saying free man, free woman, right? As a free woman, you're trying to explore about all of these issues and everything. Maybe the useful function is still questionable, especially in a short term. But I believe in the long term, this could be very beneficial, and I really hope that more students in the future will be also taking topics like this. Yeah, I'm seeing what I'm seeing right now is that Saint Thomas Aquinas, in a female form, standing there and trying to prove the existence of or maybe not really prove, but to say that the multiverse is actually Christian-based or somehow could be aligned with Christianity. However, Klara, thank you for presenting your syllogism there. I mean, this is, I think, taken from the Kalam cosmological argument, This is from Sarfati. Yeah? Everything that has a beginning has a cause. The multiverse has a beginning, major premise, minor premise. Therefore, it has a cause. The multiverse should have a cause based on the argument when you change the term. That was universe in the beginning, originally, right? Now you change it into multiverse. So this is an A1 Aristotelian syllogism. It's a bullseye syllogism. It's deductively valid. However, everything that has a beginning has a cause. Okay, we can assume it to be true. I think everybody here also will accept it to be true. And you say the multiverse has a beginning. All right? So that's the statement that I would like to underline here. It seems to me that you're suggesting that we, the audience, have some sort of taken somehow, yeah? Again, you may correct me later if I'm wrong. Have taken for granted that the multiverse should be an option. Is that right?
Can you elaborate more on what you
Yeah,
mean?
it seems that when you propose that in the second premise, the multiverse has a beginning, it seems that it's not just the matter that the multiverse has a beginning. It seems that everybody here has comprehended that the multiverse exists somehow. Now, it seems to me like begging the question. I'm sorry, it seems to me, again, you may clarify later, it is a kind of informal fallacy, begging the question. Like, you're proposing something, but you insert actually your assumption with it, the thing that you're proposing. Something like a circular reasoning, but in a more specific way. How do you respond to that if somebody asks you about this kind of thing?
Right. So even the basis from my argument itself is we assume that the multiverse exists. So that means everyone assume that the multiverse exists. So therefore, it couldn't be really considered as an informal fallacy. And to respond to the circular reasoning, this is why I provided the alternatives in my refutation. We're trying to see and break down the alternatives that's possible to the creation of the multiverse. And from seeing those alternatives, we know that it doesn't really make sense and it has limits. But then when we turn back again to God, even from the definition of the dictionary, and that's not even the definition from Christianity, Buddhism, and all those religion, it shows that God is like the creator and ruler, the one with more natural attributes. So then we can take that best option as the ultimate origin behind the multiverse. So I'm not saying God must be a necessary being because he's a necessary being, but God must be a necessary being because he's the best option from those four alternatives that I have provided.
Okay, thank you very much, Clara. Now it's more clear. Okay, Clara, another one. When you're suggesting about, let's assume that the multiverse exists, does it exist in terms of corporeality or incorporeality?
Sorry, Mr.
You use the term incorporeal in the definition of God, right, by Merriam-Webster Dictionary. So do you know the meaning of incorporeal?
I forget, Mr.
Yeah, incorporeal means it's not dealing with corpus. Corpus in Latin means the body. So it's not bodily, it's not physical. So again, my question to you is that as you are proposing that we should, let's just assume that this multiverse exists. Is it the existence based on, is the existence corporeal or incorporeal?
It will definitely be corporeal. That's why if it were to exist, we can consider it as a contingent being.
Okay. It seems like a little bit like, yeah, maybe not exactly like Plato's theory of forms. You have studied about this in logic class, yeah, back then, yeah. That says that all of the things here, like for example, we have man here, you know, a woman, a man, Mr. JC, Clara. We participate in one form, one essence, one universal. And actually, the one that is that we need to be considering more is not the versions of men, but more on the union of men, which is found in the concept of man. So, but there is also a refutation to this, which is the so-called the third man argument that says that, well, if I consider myself not really real, and then the other form of man, the manness, our humanity is more real, perhaps there is another man beyond humanity, maybe the humanity-ness of humanity, or maybe another man, the humanity-ness of humanity, that is more, let's say, real, or more, if not real, maybe more considerable, yeah, for us to think about, to accept. What if somebody asks you using this third man argument, like saying that the universe is not actually everything, but we have still another the so-called the multiverse, which is more encompassing the so-called universes or sub-universes, yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Can you reword your question?
Yeah, in terms of the reality, what if somebody asks you that the proposition of the multiverse could be somewhat unacceptable because perhaps it's just a matter of terminology that the universe itself has contained some multiverse. So it doesn't have to have a multiverse. It's just let's say somebody says that, oh, it's just a term. It's basically just universe also, but maybe it's more, you know, like containing like the complex corporeality, for example. So that's based on the third man argument.
Right. So that's a very good question. So if we go back to the history of the multiverse theory, we can see that all scientists, they use the same definition of multiverse, which is the multiverse has sub-universes or bubble universe inside of it. So if someone say that proposition, they can refer back to the history of the multiverse and the definition of the multiverse itself.
Okay. Maybe one last question, Mr. Wade. Is that okay? Yeah. As you have studied the Bible, you know, in your Bible class, you have studied a little bit theology, at least to much extent or to some extent, yeah. Do you think that this idea of multiverse in relation to Christianity in general, yeah, because we know there are many branches of Christianity, but let's say Christianity in general, do you think Christianity somehow supports this idea or the conception of multiverse, or just Christianity is just consistent with the idea of multiverse? You know the difference, yeah, supporting or just consistent with or consistent to, right? You know, I think you know the difference already, yeah, okay.
Right. So in my thesis, something that I want to clarify is I'm not using religion to support science, rather science to support religion, right? So, so if we refer back to your question, it will be consistent with, multiverse will be consistent with Christianity because, yeah, I'm using science to support religion, not religion to support science.
Proud of you. So proud of you.
Okay, good job, Clara. I have maybe one question, maybe is all we have time for, but I do want to ask you about some of the intellectuals of our day. In fact, Stephen Hawking, who I think has passed away recently, he over the course of his life, I think, convinced himself that there's no need for God, that as long as we have the laws for physics, we can explain the origin of everything. How would you talk to that sort of intellectual?
So, for those intellectuals, this is why it's very, very, very important to maintain our composure. Because whether they listen to us or not, it depends on the way we say it. Like, if I have to provide an analogy, you would listen more to someone that's like, hey, don't do that, right? Compared to someone like, don't do that, you're so, yeah, like that, right? So, in this case, we need to maintain composure and then, we respect the differences. We're like, we acknowledge like, okay, you believe in that. And then we listen to their perspective, concern, and then this is where we can use the approach of Christianity, like, sure, you believe in the law of physics, but then again, what's the origin of the law of physics, right? If the law of physics itself is limited. And then, yeah. So when we are able to approach that conversation peacefully and calmly, who knows, we can create a very much meaningful dialogue. So this is actually one of the reasons also why I write my thesis, is because I want to provide example on like how you can refute their idea, on how you can say it to them.
Okay, just one last question. Do you believe in the multiverse?
No. Just in the probability that it exists, because like we haven't even discovered or explored completely our ocean, also the universe. We don't know anything about it, so maybe there's a possibility of the multiverse.
All right, good job, Clara. All right, so we're finished for today's theses. I think what we'll do is we'll meet Clara, friends and family panelists up here for photos, and then